Welcome to Dad Bods, Crab Cakes and Sports, where husky middle-aged men share insight on the latest Baltimore sports news. From the bank to the yard and beyond, we're breaking down the Ravens, O's, Terps, and more. Baltimore's best sports podcast starts right now. Hey, good evening, all those out there in Birdland. It's Mike here on the mic check. And, we're missing Jason tonight, but John, you're in the house. Say hi to everybody.
How's it going, guys? Mike, good to see you. Glad you survived vacation so far with your children and your wife. Good to see you still smiling and standing. How many beers does that take?
Only a couple today, my friend. And pace yourself. We're here for a week. So, but yeah, I have mixed it up a little. In Ocean City, the claim to fame down here in Ocean City, Maryland, is that they are the inventor of the Orange Crush. The inventor of the Harborside down in West Ocean City claims to have created the Orange Crush. Are you familiar with that, John?
I'm familiar with like the soda, but I'm not familiar with the adult beverage.
Oh,
And
it's
it
yeah,
doesn't
it's
me.
just a mixed drink with some I think it's vodka and it's like Sprite and orange juice. It's all mixed together with like some real fresh squeezed orange juice. It's delicious, man. You could drink it like water. But yeah, and then now they have grapefruit crush. They have coconut crush. They've got lemon lime crush. So like it's definitely a day drinker's drink, and it's excellent, to mix into the repertoire when you're down here on vacation. So be on the lookout. I bet you could probably figure out a way to make your own down there, John.
Yeah, probably. I would sub that, I guess, for probably like a mimosa or something with breakfast.
Yeah, that could work. We could make that work.
You
Um,
know, I think you might be a little enlightened for the day, but nothing wrong with a few adult beverages when you're on vacation.
sure. I think I try to start at least afternoon on most days, but you never know. Once in a while, the spirit might move me. The spirits might move me to start a little sooner. Hey, real quick question for you, John. So
Yeah.
while I'm here on vacation, my wife was not here the first 2 days. She had to work, unfortunately. So I brought the kids down on Sunday night. She was at home for 2 days and then came and joined us. But I got sprung out on my own. They were at basketball camp down here for a couple of days, so I got to play a couple of rounds of golf, and I was just kind of playing on my own. And that's like my peaceful like me time. I just go out on the golf course. I meet some people, have a good time. Play 2 rounds, one on Monday, one on Tuesday. My question for you is, are you the kind of guy that will go to like a movie on your own? Will you go out and like do something by yourself that's kind of like out of the ordinary, or you just kind of always do stuff with groups?
I would go to the movies and stuff by myself. I think I would probably like go play a round of golf by myself, but I think a lot of most other things I would rather, be a group. I'm not gonna go like out drinking and that kind of sort of thing by myself. But I think I might go if I was a better, I guess the reason I wouldn't go golfing by myself is I need somebody to watch my errant tee shots to figure out where the ball went, because I will have no idea. So, but yeah, I'll go like bowling or go to the movies or something by myself, But golfing, I don't think I could do it because I just am not good enough to know where my ball's going to go.
Well, I was thankful from the gentleman I played with on Tuesday from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and he was nice enough to help and watch my errant drive. So helped me find a couple balls, and they usually match you up with somebody if you're single. I try to get out when I'm up here. Like if you get out on the first tee time, like at 6:30 on your own, you can fly through and be done by like, I don't know, 9 o'clock usually. And then you
Mhm.
can get back home sometimes before the family's even out of bed. Like that's the ideal round of vacation golf. If you can set that up. Obviously I didn't have to worry about all that this week necessarily, but that's ideal. But they usually team you up with a two or three, and then or you get stuck if you're not at the earliest tee time. You just kind of get jammed up behind people. But it was perfect on Tuesday, man. I got out and had a great time.
How did you play? Did you play well?
Actually played pretty good. I shot 83 both days, and had two birdies each day. Whenever I have a birdie, it's means for celebration because those don't come so often. So, and the courses down here are immaculate. They're a little bit expensive, but they were in excellent shape. I played one called Plantation Lakes in Millsboro, Delaware, and then down by Assateague, one called Eagles Landing, which was excellent condition as well. So a lot of fun down here. Um, But today, this evening, Josh and Cecilia were ready to rock and roll. They wanted to go down to alley oops. I was telling you about this earlier, John, before we started. But
Yeah.
if you guys are familiar with like Dave and Buster's, it's basically that in Ocean City. And I always dread doing that down here because like the last 2 or 3 times I've done it with the kids, it's not the matter of the arcades or all that kind of stuff. It's the fact that you cannot make it from one side of the building to the other without kids like biting at your ankles all the way across. So like, but tonight it was actually pretty decent. Are you familiar with anything like that down in Florida, John?
Not really. I mean, they got like, like Chuck E. Cheese and Dave and Buster's. And there's some arcade type things over by Disney. Like they have like Groupons and stuff where you get like 2 hours of unlimited gameplay for like $50 or something. And it's fun. But again, like you said, it's like kids biting at your ankles, and your summer vacation as a PE teacher is to avoid the children. And
Right.
it's not really a vacation for you if you're at the arcade and they're running all over the place.
Well, Josh is my gamer kid, so he heads right over to like the motorcycle riding game or the Jurassic Park shoot 'em up game, and so like I get to watch him, and that's kind of fun. But they have skee ball, they have the basketball shooting. I got to do that with Seal tonight, which is always fun. Like Connect Four basketball. I might have won. It was great. But and then they have like the air hockey, and they actually have a little bowling alley in the place, and they have a bar too, which is helpful for adults that need to kind of ease the pain of not being able to get through the crowd. So it was a good night overall tonight. John, what have you been up to, man?
Not too much, not too much. Just trying to deal with the heat, and that's kind of the big thing. Like at work and stuff is going inside, outside, inside, outside. And now that I've gotten like a promotion, I work at like the higher end car dealer. You have to wear a shirt and tie. They want you to wear a jacket if you're selling certain cars, and so you're just drenched. Because I guess the other day I had a shirt and tie and then a sport coat on, and it's 98 degrees with 100% humidity. And I'm like, is it okay if I just show you the one in the showroom because it's air conditioned in here? Oh no, we want to see the one out here. And of course, it's like in the farthest corner of the lot. So I have to go down and see which one they're talking about. Then I have to go back and get the key. And then of course, they're not like waiting at the car. They're like waiting to walk with me to the car. So then I gotta like walk and talk with them as I'm like drenched in sweat. And then you get in the car, and the car's hot. The seats are hot. The door handles are hot. Everything is hot. And then it takes a while to cool down. And they're like, "Are you okay? Are you hot?" I'm like, "No, I'm not hot. I just have a jacket and a shirt and tie on, and I'm sweating. It's nothing like that. Come on, people."
So what do you do? I could imagine myself in that situation, being the swampiest of swampy. How do you like mitigate that? Is there like a secret deodorant stash? Do you have a locker room? Like, what does that look like from the car salesman end of things?
Well, like I've had to come home for lunch and change my shirt because like my undershirt and then like my button up shirt were both like just drenched. So I've had to like change shirt and tie, on lunch when I come home. But it's just eventually it's just a point where you're like, you know what, screw the jacket, roll your sleeves up, unbutton your top button, pull your tie down a little bit, and then I told my boss, I'm like, I'm just too hot. I can't do this. I was like, if it's December or January, I could, but not in July, especially,
You go to like full wedding mood, when like you're done eating and it's hot and you're dancing, and then the tie slowly starts to get loosened up, and then the sleeves start to get rolled up, and
Yeah.
then you are, just kind of got to make yourself as comfortable as humanly possible, but still
Well,
look
exactly.
professional.
I found the best ties though. I don't know where to buy them, but I saw that. I saw somebody had one. It was a zipper tie. So you know how like Barth would wear the clip-ons, right?
Yes.
He didn't know how to tie a tie. So he wore the clip-ons. Well, there's some that kind of they're even better than clip-ons because they go over your head, over your collar. Then you put your collar around them, and then it's just a zipper, and you just zip the tie up. I
That's
was like,
that
man.
is the lazy man special, and I think as a phys ed teacher that probably fits the mold for me. If I wear a tie like twice a year, so I think I got to look into investing in one of those bad boys. Hey, so real quick, just to change gears, Question of the day for you.
Yes.
What is the most coach like thing that you have said to one of your kids this week? What is the most coach like thing? And I'll give you a chance to think about it while I give you mine. So we're in the swimming pool at the condo complex where I'm staying at my cousin's up here in Delaware, and we're playing around. We're playing three flies, right? Classic game. You tossing the ball in the air, whoever gets three flies first is a winner. And my cousin is kind of shoving Josh around. He's getting a little upset about it, and I'm like, dude, listen, man, if he's giving it to you, you got to give it back to him so that you can get open and get a chance to catch the ball. You can't just get upset about it. You got to get in there. So, like that for me, that was the most coach thing I did this week, other than telling him that with his spiral, I need to let the ball roll off his fingers there at the end with his football throw. But other than that, that was the most coach thing I said. How about you?
Well, I think I was telling my kids because it was hot and they go to like a summer camp. I said, when you go outside, you make sure that you're drinking enough water because I don't I don't want you to get the dehydration, and make sure that you're filling your water bottle up if it's empty, and that you're hydrating enough because it's hot outside, and I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I also told I also told my son to get his butt down because he was like he was having like a trouble like pulling his pants on to go to church. I'm like, bud, you're like standing hunched over. So get your butt down and pull your pants.
Well, you got to get into that athletic position, right? To
Right.
get your pants on, you know. Well, speaking of athletics and getting into athletic position, let's talk a little bit about the O's. The O's woes tonight, apparently. So I looked at the score before we came on, and it was 6-0. I think they were in the sixth inning or something like that. We had predicted, we had made our predictions starting on Sunday night for the next two series, which the Orioles are playing three right now in Arlington versus the Rangers. Tonight's the rubber match of that series, and then they go to the day off tomorrow, I believe, and then they go to Atlanta for three. And I had predicted, I think 2-4. John, what was your prediction for the series?
3-3.
3-3, and I think Jason was the optimist this week and said 4-2. Now they won the first one in exciting fashion in Texas. They were leading 3-0. Texas had battled back to tie it. We take the lead in the top of the 10th. They get it back in the bottom of the 10th, and then we score, I think, 4 runs and win it 10-6 in the opener, which was exciting. Good way to start the series. But then we had said they got DeGrom and Evaldi pitching last night and tonight. And last night was a blowout loss. And then tonight it seems like a repeat performance of that. And it seems like the Orioles are constantly up and then right back down again. And there's not a level of consistency. John, do you want to talk about what you're seeing in this series?
Well, what I think is I watched the game the other night, and I don't know what I was doing, something else as I was watching the game, and I'm just like, it's 3-0, we'll be okay. And then the Rangers come back, but then the Orioles, they go out and do this. But I think that a lot of this kind of comes down to a mental thing. We've talked about this all along. It's our starting pitching is either feast or famine. We're getting nothing or we're getting everything. And until we can get the starting pitching to be consistently good or consistently bad, either or, as a hitter, you're going up to the plate thinking, we're going to have to score, 7-8 runs to win. And and I've said this before, as a hitter, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to do too much and getting outside of yourself. And then we get these games like last night and tonight where, tonight we're down 6-0 and we're not hitting the ball well. And I think until we can get starting pitching that is reliable, where you're going to know that, at least 3 out of every 5 games, you're going to get a good outing. We're going to keep having these same issues where we have a great game offensively. And then, we use up all of our hits. We use up all our runs in that first game. And then, look at us now. And we can't give up 6 runs. We can't give up that much because our offense just cannot keep up. And I think that's just, I was reading an ESPN today. I mentioned this to you before. They were talking about what each team had to do. And they were basically saying, we need to trade O'Hearn and just kind of give up on the season because it's just been a roller coaster up and down, and we just can't sustain the winning because we can't get the starting pitching and get the starts that we need. And then the bullpen, goes, and then we had a new pitcher tonight. I don't know what his first name. His last name, I think, was Miller. Was a new arm out of the bullpen tonight. So I don't know what we're gonna do, Mike. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I know we've talked about
Well,
kind of the same thing over and over.
yeah, I mean, and there's been a transaction every day for the Orioles over like the last like 10 or 11 days. And just to read a few of you, like just to keep you guys abreast of what's going on. Obviously, they recalled Dylan Carlson. He played last night, I know. They purchased the contract of Jacob Stallings from Norfolk. He's your catcher, I believe, this evening, and we have Sanchez DHing. The Kyle Tyler guy that they were able to pick up on waivers, they had to release because of some roster maneuvering. Chadwick Tromp, the catcher, went on the 10-day IL. The only reason they were able to pull Carlson up was because they were able to, injury-wise, because he needed to stay down for those certain number of days because they had an injury. They kind of finagled it where they pulled Carlson up as the Tromp replacement. Technically, it's Stallings, but they pulled Carlson up. So they were able to flip that, and then they also were able to bring Stallings up. You had Emmanuel Rivera DFA'd again, and then they recalled Ynier Cano tonight, Corbin Martin from the Tides tonight. They signed a shortstop, Jose Barrero, to a minor league contract. They put Keegan Aiken on the 15-day IL, and he's been pitching really well. And then they sent Bowman back down for assignment after he pitched poorly in yesterday's game. So just to go through those things, that's like a month's worth of transactions in like 2 days. And it's been that way kind of all year for the Orioles. It's hard to develop a rhythm, especially with your pitching staff, with all these injuries that are going on. And like tonight, for example, just Sagano was really able to get out of jams earlier this season. He was finding a way to make the right pitch at the right time. And tonight, I think it was the fourth inning, he's got second and third, nobody out. Laureano had just tried to chase a runner at third base and throw him out instead of hitting the cutoff man. So now it's second and third instead of first and third and splitting the runners. And then he makes two great pitches to strike out the next two hitters. And then he hangs a sweeper and can't get out of the inning. 2-run single, and it's 5-0. So it's one of those things where if he keeps it at 3-0, then maybe the Orioles chip away. But now it's kind of they scored a home run in the next inning. It's 6-0. And then you're like, by the time you look up, I bet by the end of the game, it's maybe 8-0. And that's the kind of game that's been getting away from us recently. So some of the things that he has done earlier this year, he's not able to make that clutch pitch, and that gets away from the team overall. I think as far as I'm concerned, I think you have to say, right, that our first half MVP has got to be Ryan O'Hearn. And congratulations to Ryan. He was selected as a starter, as DH in the All-Star. That came out tonight. I don't know, John, if you saw that they did a little thing where he called his mom from the dugout. The Orioles posted on the website. It was pretty cool. But congrats to O'Hearn. I mean, would you agree that he's the MVP of this team for the first half, or do you have any other guys that you think deserve it?
Absolutely. I mean, he's hitting over 300. He's been clutch almost all the entire first half of the season. I mean, you take him out, you take Jackson Holiday out of that lineup. If you take both those guys out, I think we're in even a worse, or I know that we're in even worse spot than we are currently, because he's just been solid. He's been solid in his contact, solid in his, we talk about his defense not being great, but he's been decent at first base and in right field. He's been a good plug and play guy to keep that bat in the order. And I think we just have to keep riding him, and he has to, keep performing unless, like I said, unless they end up trading him. Because right now, unfortunately, I'm beginning to think that, it's time to reload, get some young guys, whatever, and play for next year, because this season's just gotten away from us. But O'Hearn, him hitting like that then makes it an even more valuable trade asset for us.
I mean, O'Hearn has had a great year. I think he has 11 home runs, maybe. He's hitting close to 300. He's really been a consistent piece in the middle of the lineup for this team, who I think at the beginning of the year, we probably thought he was more of a platoon guy, maybe with Mountcastle, might not play every day, might play an outfield spot here or there. So he stepped up big time for a team that's really been injury riddled. So I think you got to give him his flowers for that. If you were thinking about maybe some other guys that you could consider for first half MVP, I think you'd have to throw maybe Brian Baker out there. Like he's pitched really well out of the bullpen. If you look at Brian Baker's stats, he's 3-2 this year with a 2.72 ERA, 1.02 WHIP, 46 strikeouts, and in some high leverage situations has done a really outstanding job out of the bullpen this year. Hard to pick a bullpen piece for an entire half of a season, but if I was to select someone who really surprised and really stepped up, it would be him. The other guy maybe you could think about is Jason just chimed in on the chat is Dean Kramer. Dean had a tough March, April again, as always, but has really settled down. I think since the end of April, he's pitched almost a 3-ish ERA. Overall for the season, he's 7-7 with a 4.27 ERA, 78 strikeouts, 1.29 WHIP, and he's been really solid in his last few outings and gives the team a chance to win every time out, especially for a pitching staff in such disarray. You have Eflin being hurt right now. Povich was on a rehab assignment. I think he re-injured himself and had a setback again. So you have this miss and match kind of pitching rotation. So Kramer did a great job of stepping up in that way. We did a little poll on our Facebook page and kind of asked listeners kind of what you think about who could be our first half MVP. Put a bunch of options. Feel free to go in there and chime in. If there's someone I missed, please comment on it. Let us know what you think, who you think the first half MVP is for your 2025 Baltimore Orioles in kind of a sad opening half of the season.
Well, you could also probably throw Aiken's name out there as well in that bullpen. What left 24 of 25 or 25 of 27, something like that, runners left on base, inherited runners left on base. So, with the way that he was pitching for now, he's on the DL, but with the way he was pitching and, keeping us in ball games. I mentioned that the other night that he came in with, I believe, with the bases loaded, and he worked himself out of somebody else's pickle. And so, you're looking at him too. So, I mean, there's a couple other bullpen arms, I think, who could be in that, sort of most valuable player in the first half of the season. Baker and an Aiken probably as well.
And I think you probably would have to say that the bullpen has probably been the most consistent part of the team overall. Through the first half of the season. They've had their hiccups, obviously, and a lot of their earned runs are contributed to some of our position players who pitched in the bullpen a couple times this year. I think we've seen Luis Vasquez a little bit on the mound too much, even though he's done a really nice job in his relief appearances. But that doesn't speak well to being competitive in your games. But real quick, while we're talking baseball, let me just shout out, the all-star starters for each of the leagues. John, as we go through, kind of tell me what you think maybe overall, and maybe if there's someone that you thought maybe was more deserving. Looking at the American League, Cal Raleigh, man, he is having a heck of a season at catcher for the Mariners. You have O'Hearn at DH. Vlad Jr., we all predicted he would have a really good year this year and a contract year, and obviously he got the contract, but at first base. You have Gleyber Torres, who's really playing well for the Tigers at second. He beat out Jackson Holiday in that last vote. You have Jose Ramirez, who beat out Alex Bregman. Jacob Wilson at short, which kind of surprised me, John, because I know Bobby Witt was one of those guys who could have been there. Aaron Judge, Riley Green, and Javier Baez with a bounce-back season for the Tigers in the outfield. So just start with the American League, John. Any thoughts on that all-star starting lineup?
Not really. I mean, it's just it's kind of predictable. Like in all the all-star games, it's kind of predictable unless there's, really somebody out in the stratosphere who's just blowing it up. It's usually, the same, you look at it back like when Cal was playing stuff. Look at the starters. They were all the same regardless of, who really probably was deserving of any of that stuff. But, it's nice to see, Cal Raleigh, and then, Wilson has just had a heck of a first full season in the majors. I mean, he's hitting 339. I believe through the first almost 3/4 of the season, he hadn't even had a walk or anything yet.
He is amazing to watch him. And I didn't know who he was. I'm not going to lie. I did a horrible job, Jason. Sorry, with fantasy baseball. But he is an excellent baseball player, and he's one of those contact guys. When I was talking about let's go out there and get Luis Arias earlier in the year, or let's go out there and get Stephen Kwan, this guy is that guy and more. And watching him when we played Oakland in those series, man, he just is a net. He gets on base, just constantly on base, and just puts the ball in play. So I was super impressed. Bobby Witt Jr., he's batting 286 with 11 home runs, 45 RBIs, and 97 hits. And last year he had such a stud year at shortstop. That position's tough. Gunnar is having a solid season, nothing spectacular, but Wilson, I think, is obviously the best player at shortstop if you're really taking a look at the numbers just for this season. But like you said, John, it's usually those same guys year after year once your name's in there. So I'm happy that the baseball fans were able to see that this guy is more deserving of the start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's just a slick fielder. He's very good with the bat. We talk about this all the time. How like when we were growing up in the 90s, we were taught put the bat on the ball, hit the ball and run, and to make them make mistakes. Where now it's, put the ball over the fence. He's more of a, we're going to put the bat on the ball. We're not going to strike out. We're going to do the productive things on offense. And then he's also a very, very good fielder on a team that's not, they're not have World Series aspirations or anything like that. But, he's going to be around for a while, and I think he's going to challenge the Wits and the Gunners and the things for top tier shortstop status in the American League.
Yeah, and looking at Javi Baez, man, it's nice to see that he's having a bounce back season. He was great as part of those Cubs teams, and just to see him having a better season, it's kind of cool to see different. Usually, you see a name like Mike Trout or something like there in the outfield, but to see somebody different, and the Tigers getting their kudos for having such a good first half of the season as well. It's nice to see the team that's performing well be rewarded with a few stars with Riley Green and Javi Baez. And those guys starting in the All-Star game. Who did I miss? There's three. Oh, Gleyber Torres as well, starting in the All-Star team game for the American League. So let's talk about the National League real quick, John. At catcher, you got Will Smith from the Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani, big surprise at DH, and Freddie Freeman at first base. So there's three Dodgers right off the bat. Ketel Marte at second base, Manny Machado, you know who that guy is, playing third. Lindor from the Mets at shortstop. Pete Crow Armstrong having a heck of a season for the Cubs in the outfield with his mate Kyle Tucker, who obviously got traded from the Astros this year to Chicago, and then Ronald Acuna Jr. to round it out for the National League. So, John, anything that stands out to you about the National League starters?
I mean, Crow Armstrong already has a 2020 season by the All-Star break. He has a 20 homers, 20 stolen bases already at the All-Star break, and that's a very, he's good. And I really think that it's great to see some guys getting, first time accolades as an all-star game starter and getting some of these, guys who maybe before the season weren't well known or well known outside of their local fan bases that are now getting in some of the national attention and getting the game expanded with different players than just the same guys over and over again. So I think very predictable in a lot of the things. Shohei, no doubt about it. Freddie Freeman, two very very popular players and I mean deserving of it. But I don't think there's much out of the ordinary or anything that we didn't really expect off the bat.
Yeah, I'll be more interested when the entire teams are announced and kind of see at that point. That's when you start talking who got snubbed or something like that. Particularly, we'll see what the pitching staffs look like for each team. I mean, I would give a lean toward the National League team right now if I was looking at both rosters. Maybe just because of more consistent players on there that have been there year after year, but there's obviously some good players on the American League roster as well. Remember that American League had that huge run of all-star games there for a while. And National League has really come back here in the last few years and done a little bit of a better job competing in the Midsummer Classic. So I'm excited for the all-star game coming up here shortly. That's technically usually the halfway point in the season, even though it's a little bit beyond the halfway point in the season, as we've played, I think, 86, something like that, games so far as O's fans, kind of hoping that we can rebound a little bit and see kind of what the second half brings. Hopefully, maybe some pitchers come back and help the team move in the right direction. At least get some momentum. If we can't eke out some way into the playoffs, get some momentum moving into the season next year, and maybe do something actually this offseason.
Well, Cano just came back up, and he just allowed one runner on base, but then got out of it with no run. So that's a very positive thing for the former All Star. But like Mike, I was thinking about this as I was reading that list. Is you know, you know, nobody watches the NFL Pro Bowl because it's dumb. Nobody watches the NHL All Star Game. Nobody watches NBA All Star Game. Nobody really talks about it because you can fake those sports. You know, you can fake basketball by just not playing defense like the All Star Game. But the baseball, one of the coolest things I ever went to was the 2013 All Star Game at Citi Field in New York because they play real baseball. They don't. You can't fake it. You have to play, and those guys are out there playing, and pitchers are pitching, hitters are hitting, and they're doing everything like a normal game. Where like I said, the other sports, you're not doing that. So I think that's why a lot of people are drawn towards the Midsummer Classic. Plus, there's not really other sports going on, but you see a ton of people drawn to that, and that's I like the MLB All Star Game better just because it's real sports. It's not just offense. And Jay said NBA All Star Game is still pretty popular. Well, it is because they like to see the offense and stuff, but it's not real basketball. Nobody plays real basketball because you can fake it. Can't fake baseball.
Yeah, you make a good point about not faking baseball. And I think just the pace of the game of baseball lends itself to more of the pageantry of an all-star game. Whereas, you have between innings, you have the home run derby aspect of the all-star weekend. You have the futures game, by the way, which the Orioles have Enrique Bradfield Jr. and a reliever who's is it Gillies, who throws 95. He's like 6'8". He's a stud. But that stuff goes along with the MLB All Star Game too, which is kind of exciting. I will tune into the MLB All Star Game. I do not watch the NBA All Star Game. I've never watched the NHL All Star Game, and the Pro Bowl has slowly died down into some type of weird flag football competition. I don't even know what it is anymore. So, baseball is the best of what remains of the All Star contest for sure, John. I agree with you there, 100%. Before we switch gears real quick, John, to a little bit of football stuff, can you tell our listeners where they can find us, where they can look for us, etc.?
Absolutely. You can find us on all social media on Twitter or X, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram on Crab Cakes or Dadbods _ Crab Cakes _ sports. And then you can contact us at our email at dadbods crab cakes and sports at gmail.com. And we're here every Sunday and Wednesday night about 9:30 on Facebook Live and on YouTube. And if you miss it, we'll be you can go to our YouTube channel. I believe it's dadbods _ crab cakes _ sports YouTube as well. And we love your support. And you can find us on all the major podcast places, Amazon and Spotify, Apple, Red Circle, all those sorts of places. And your support really helps us grow Baltimore sports and grow the Dad Bod clan out there, and helps us move up the charts.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us a like, give us a follow, and our dad bods. You don't have to have a dad bod to listen. I swear. I mean, we do, but like if you are in good shape, feel free to continue to listen. If it's beyond a dad bod, we understand. We know how those things happen. You still feel free to listen. No, you are part of what we've got going on. Greg, there will be no dad bod OnlyFans. I'm sorry. I know you're looking for that page. I'm not selling my feet. We're not. None of that's happening. But we do and will continue to talk Baltimore sports. And I'm going to flip gears right now to the NFL and a big trade that went down this week. And there's a lot of mixed opinions about this trade. But if you haven't been watching or listening, the Miami Dolphins agreed to trade three-time All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey and tight end Jonnu Smith to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for three-time All-Pro safety Minka Fitzpatrick and a pick swap. where the Dolphins are sending a 2027 seventh round pick to the Steelers, and they will receive a 2027 fifth round pick back from Pittsburgh. Ramsey will get a $1.5 million raise this season, bringing his compensation to $26.6 million, according to Adam Schefter of ESPN. And the Steelers are taking on the bulk of Ramsey's contract for this season, with the Dolphins paying $3 million. Smith will receive a one-year contract extension worth $12 million. So interesting, Minkah Fitzpatrick heads back to the Miami Dolphins, where he was originally, and the Steelers get Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. We already have Pat Freiermuth there, so there's another tight end in the fold there in Pittsburgh. John, tell me what you think of this transaction.
I think that is what it's showing is that the Steelers feel like, you know what, they need a more experienced cornerback than what's his face they drafted last year. Um, oh,
Well,
his
they have
name's
Joey Porter Jr. there.
Joey Porter Jr. Yes, thank you. They needed a more experienced cornerback, to go against the Bengals and the Ravens 2 times every year. I think that what they're doing is they're showing respect to the wide receiving rooms in that AFC North, knowing that you're going to have to play those guys 2 times every year, and then you got to have somebody there who can stop them. Otherwise, you're losing. You're just asking to lose 4 games to your two of your division opponents. And so I think it's a pretty even trade. I think I've read most of the people are saying it's swinging in favor of the Steelers, but I think it's something that they needed to do is upgrade that secondary, and giving up Fitzpatrick and more or less an even up trade is pretty good for them, I think. And I is it going to help them? Is it going to help? Absolutely, but is it enough to bring them over the top? I don't think so. I think there's still a second or third place team in that AFC North, with the way that their roster is set up and with the way that the Ravens and the Bengals rosters are set.
I mean, I might be completely wrong in reading this situation, but it seems to me that Pittsburgh keeps delaying that inevitable rebuild that they're going to need at some point. And they keep putting these band-aids on these bullet holes. And they need to get a quarterback, obviously, is their biggest issue, with Aaron Rodgers being there maybe for this year only, potentially. And then, Minkah Fitzpatrick, I wouldn't say has lived up to the billing in Pittsburgh of what he was supposed to be when he got there. And I think you had not only the fans that were a little disappointed in his performance, but also obviously the player personnel office here. My issue with the trade is, if you're trying to keep up with the Ravens, the Bengals in the AFC North, or these other teams in the AFC like the Bills and the Chiefs, the problem is you are subtracting to add. You are getting rid of a Minkah Fitzpatrick as a safety, and now I don't know if they're going to play Ramsey in a more of a safety type role, kind of like maybe we had talked about like Rod Woodson when he came over and went from cornerback to safety and how that worked. Maybe that's what they're seeing happen with Ramsey in more of a flexible role in their secondary in Pittsburgh, which I could see maybe happening. And then Jonnu Smith, like to me, I guess you're looking for another target for Rodgers. That's a Freudian slip. Maybe you're seeing the fact that running the football is going to be that staple for Pittsburgh this year. They're going to maybe run a lot more play action, just have DK in there and hit him on play action, get some 2 tight end sets, really try to establish the run and get back to maybe Steelers football identity wise, which I could see happening in Pittsburgh. But when you're subtracting a 5th rounder for next year or 2027, and you're also subtracting Minkah, it's not like the Ravens did when they kept all the players they had in the fold and added Jair Alexander. It's not the same. So, yes, the Steelers may have got a little bit better, but I don't think this was the big move that puts them in front of the Ravens in the AFC North.
I agree here with what Greg said. This sounds like something just to make fans happy. See, we did stuff. Yeah, you know what I was thinking, Mike, as I was reading some of this stuff, I'm like, this is the same nonsense the Orioles do. The same nonsense. You trade. You let Santander go. You pick up O'Neal. You didn't make an upgrade. You didn't do anything. You just basically took the same player who only hits one way. And the Steelers, it's not a major upgrade in any way, shape, or form because they're going to have to fill Minka's role unless they're expecting Ramsey to fill his role. But I mean, that's all they're doing. They're going to need a quarterback. They're going to need another, running back and things. And they just, I really do think this is just like Greg said, we did something. We tried, but I don't
Yeah.
think they tried hard enough.
Are they rearranging the deck chairs on the old Titanic, as they say, or are they really doing something? Hey, we had someone just pop on our video that looks awful familiar to me. John, did you notice that?
Oh, I did.
Man, I had
Jason,
to come on
welcome
here.
back in, man. Did you think we were the Titanic going down? You needed to save us.
No, I just was wondering why John is putting down an entire league and their viewership. Good Christ. Nobody's watching the NBA? What's the matter with you? I'm
It's
not
not
watching
real
the NBA.
basketball. You said it yourself.
Right, but that doesn't mean there's people not watching it. People love it. Hey, people just watched the draft the other night. That was like watching paint dry, but people love it. People
I
say
watched the
baseball is
draft go right
boring.
down my gullet, a different kind of draft. It was delicious.
Yeah, I heard all about your orange crushes and all that other stuff. I hope you're having a wonderful time. Let me tell you.
How is your wife, Jason?
She's fabulous. She is in a lot of pain, a lot of throbbing pain in her nasal region and her mouth from her surgery today. So had to wait till the youngest fell asleep, and here I am. So
Well,
good
sending out our
times.
prayers to Jess for a speedy recovery for sure, buddy.
Good times. Appreciate it. So you guys are talking about the trade between the Steelers and the Dolphins. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on it, Jason? We kind of had our opinions. We're curious to hear what you had to say.
Well, it's definitely so. If you guys have watched it all, like I'm a big Minka Fitzpatrick fan. I like if you've heard me here over the last like 6 months, it probably comes off that I'm like this huge Steelers fan. I give them a lot of props, but like he fits in well in their plans and what they want to do. But he lost a step. If you looked at how he was last year, he definitely lost a step. Where Ramsey, I mean, I feel like he's the type of guy that plays at an extremely high level when he wants to. And Miami, it just wasn't happening. They weren't winning. He just was getting discouraged. Are you going to get the Jacksonville Jaguars player? Absolutely not. But are you going to possibly get the LA Rams Ramsey? Probably. I would bet on it. I mean, it's definitely an upgrade. It's not enough upgrade to make me concerned. But I mean, he can play. I mean, he can play a linebacker. He can play safety. He can play corner. It's a lot of flexibility. They got better. I'll tell you that. Did they get drastically better? No. Did they put the fear in the Ravens? No. So, but is it a good thing for their team? Sure. Why not?
Well, I said the same exact thing, Jason. I said I thought it was a slight upgrade, but it's not gonna make me pick the Steelers over the Ravens in the AFC North for sure. So it didn't move the needle for me in a way that made me change my opinion of how the pecking order is in the AFC North. So I like that the Steelers are, for their sake, are continuing to try to get better. Again, they're not going to get markedly better until they get a quarterback in there that is a young, up and coming quarterback who is, ready to go in this league, because that is what's going on. And all the teams that are competing at the top end of the AFC and even in the NFC, you have a young quarterback who's a stable presence in their organization who you're building around for the future. Unfortunately, the Steelers have had like a mid 2000 Ravens crisis where they can't find the right guy to fit that role. And until they do that, they're going to compete. I think they still could be the second best team in the AFC North, depending on how good the Bengals defense can be, or if any of those guys are going to play for them. If Hendrickson holds out, or if their first round pick even signs and doesn't go back to the draft. So there's a lot of question marks going on around the league. How do you see it, John, as far as pecking order in the AFC North right now?
I think it's the Ravens, the Bengals, if they can sign, Hendrickson and their first round pick, then the Steelers, and then the Browns. I think the Steelers just it's going to just be a matter of Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, and if he plays like Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, because he's got the targets, he's got Fryermuth and DK and those sorts of things, and I just don't know at what level you're going to get out of TJ Watt and the pass rush, and Cam Hayward's getting older, all these sorts of things, and so I don't see them hopping the Bengals, and I think if the Bengals can stay healthy, they're a very competitive team, and they're very they're going to be very good competition for us. Where clearly clearly the Ravens are the favorite in that division, assuming we don't have any major injuries or anything like that.
Well, they don't have to hop the Bengals. The Bengals finished below them last year. The Steelers, I thought going in here that they were a 10, possibly 11 win team. Did they get any better win wise? I don't know. Maybe not. It doesn't move the needle for me there, but I will tell you Aaron Rodgers, I don't think John has to play like Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. He just has to play a more controlled version of Aaron Rodgers than he did last year, because the inmates ran the asylum in New York last year. It was a mess. He was the head inmate, and he said how things went. Again, I've talked about this for a month now. That's not going to fly in Pittsburgh. It's going to be Tomlin's way or the highway. And I think him knowing that, he's never played, I guess McCarthy to a point, but he's never really had a head coach that was just like, yeah, it's going to be my way. Like, yeah, sorry, I've been doing this just as long as you have. I have the same amount of rings. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do things my way. And the Rooneys, they're like, come on, guys. Like, it's so, no, I do. I think the Bengals will win some games, but they're going to all be like, they better score 35 points a game because they're a dumpster fire defensively. And I don't see it getting any better. Mike, you said it, like Hendrickson's all pissed off. And now the first round pick, oh boy. So if they don't get something figured out quickly.
Yeah, they're going to look like they have egg on their face if that guy goes back to the draft. That's almost like one of the most humiliating things I can think of that can happen to a franchise. So I would assume that in some way that he will sign, but if they don't, man, that looks awful. And the last thing real quick before we move on from that is, if you remember the playoff game between the Steelers and the Ravens last year, the Ravens just ran roughshod over the Steelers. So no matter what we're talking about with what they did on offense, did they do enough defensively to stop the Ravens from doing that, number one? And like you said, Jason, the best way to beat a team like that is to control the ball. So that's what Aaron Rodgers will need to do if it comes to that in the playoffs. Will he be able to not turn the ball over? Will the Steelers' offensive line be able to run the football against good teams like the Bengals or the Bills or the Chiefs or the Ravens in the playoffs? So that's really where it comes down to it for me anyway. But let's just switch gears real quick. One quick game today at Ballpark Figures, and I have a top 10 list for you guys, and this is a little bit more subjective than some of the other ones that I've done with you guys. So in this segment, I'm going to give a category, and Jason and John are going to try to come up with the people to fill out the top 10 on that list. And if you're watching and listening with us, feel free to chime in the chat or in the comments and throw out your answers as well. And we'll see what we can do as far as coming up with this list. And the list today is best quarterbacks to have never won a Super Bowl. Best quarterbacks to have never won a Super Bowl. And this list I have is from July 2nd, which is today, according to Fox Sports. So
John Dan Marino?
Dan Marino, absolutely.
Dan Marino is number one. He is the number one best quarterback to have never won a Super Bowl.
So, this takes into account active players too, I'm assuming.
Yes, but there are no active players
on
this list.
That makes it easier.
Yeah.
Okay. John, what do you think? Randall Cunningham on that list?
Yeah, it has to be.
So
Mike?
He is not on the list. Randall Cunningham is not on the list. But I don't disagree with you guys. He was an excellent, excellent quarterback. And we got to see him firsthand in Baltimore. A couple
This is a subjective list, Jason, so it's what people think. Did Warren Moon win a Super Bowl?
No, he's a Hall of Famer.
I would assume Warren Moon is on this list, don't you?
Yeah.
He
Warren
is.
Moon.
He is number 6 on the list. Warren Moon is number 6 on the list.
Okay.
Good God.
Golly.
Randall
Wait,
Cunningham
where-
was an honorable mention, by the way, on this list.
Where was
Okay.
Warren? Where was Marino? Was he number 1?
Reno was number 1.
I mean, I want to
What
say
about
like
Boomer?
no, Boomer never won one. He won an MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Boomer Esiason, Mike.
Yeah.
He is not on the list. He is not on the list. I would say you were looking for a few guys in the last generation of quarterbacks, a couple guys in that last generation of quarterbacks, and then maybe a couple in that previous before that generation. So not too old. And then there's a couple. There's 2 that are a little bit older. Sorry, 2 that are a little bit older.
John,
Well,
I was
Jim
thinking
Kelly.
Matt. I was
Jim
thinking
Kelly.
Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matt
You
Ryan.
guys are both correct. Jim Kelly and Matt Ryan are on the list. Matt Ryan is number 3, and Jim Kelly is number 4.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers is number 2 on the list. So you have
Really? That's a weird.
4. Yeah, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 right now on the list. 5 was an older guy, and then you need 7, 8, 9, and 10. I will tell you, one of the guys played quarterback in Baltimore.
Vinny Testaverde.
He is honorable mention, but not on the list.
Jim Harbaugh. Jason, you think?
What? If
I don't-
Testaverde's not on that list, get out of here with that nonsense.
Oh, Steve.
Not
Greg's
even
got
worth
it. Greg's got it.
Steve McNair.
Steve
Oh, yeah.
McNair.
Oh,
Steve McNair is
really?
number 8 on the
Really?
list.
Randall
He's a
Cunningham
man.
was way better than Steve McNair.
Yeah, I don't
He
think
did win
Cunningham
an
won
MVP. Well, he split one with Peyton, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
gotta, whatever you want to call it.
All right. So that he was number 8. So you need 5, 7, 9, and 10. Number 10 went to a bunch of NFC Championship games and won Super Bowl, I believe.
What's his face? Donovan McNabb.
Donovan McNabb, yes, for the Philadelphia Eagles. He is number 10 on the list.
Who else? How many more we got?
You need 5, 7, and 9. You need 3 left.
And 2 of them are old.
One of them has a name like a girl, but he was really good at football.
What?
He's a
These
girl
are like
name.
He's turned it into me, Jason.
Oh my God.
One would say his name is, I believe, used in the movie The Waterboy also as a man's name, even though.
Okay, stop it. Just stop it.
So
land screener.
I'm going to give you guys one more guess. One more guess before I help you fill out the blanks.
Okay, so we have 5.
You need 5, 7, and 9.
I mean, I would think it would have to be a Jet at some point, right? Is there any Jets on that list? Since it's just
Chad
heartbreak and
Chad Penn.
Any
Not that I
Browns?
see. I mean, here. Let me give you the list of honorable mention guys so you don't guess them. Well, Vinny Testaverde was a Jet. Ken Anderson, Cam Newton, David Craig, Sonny Jurgensen, all honorable mention, as well as Randall Cunningham.
please tell me like Tony Romo is not on this list, is he? That would be.
Greg, Tim Tebow is not on the list, but that is funny. So one of them played for the Bengals for his entire career.
Carson Palmer?
Carson
No,
Palmer.
he didn't. He did not play for
Oh,
the
wait,
Bengals
at the
his
end.
entire
That's
career.
right. At the end, he didn't.
Wait,
That's
didn't
right.
he play for?
So
Yeah.
Carson Palmer was number 7.
Okay.
No, he had.
What?
Where did he end up? He
Carson
didn't-
Palmer is
Arizona.
Randall Cunningham.
Arizona.
Yep, I'm telling you, it's subjective, guys. I'm doing.
See,
my
I wouldn't
best
put
here.
Carson. I wouldn't put Carson Palmer in front of Tony Romo. Not NFL
Really?
wise.
No.
Mm-mm.
I wouldn't.
The other 2, the guy I was telling you who was
Um,
the female name is Fran
Fran
Tarkenton.
Tarkenton, number 5
I
all
thought-
time. Farmer Fran from Waterboy. No, all right. Anyway, and then the last guy on the list, I believe Chargers, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
Dan,
Dan.
Yes.
Yeah, he was an announcer for all these years.
Yep.
Dan
No, not
Fouts.
Quiznos.
Fouts.
Dan
Dan
Phelps. Quiznos is a sub
Did you
shop.
almost say Dan Quisenberry? Is that what
Yes,
you
I
almost said?
almost said Dan Quisenberry.
I'm pretty sure he's a pitcher.
Right? No, I know.
Oh man. Well, there you go.
Nope, I
That's
said
the
Dan
way
Fouts.
that Fox Sports sees it. So if you have an issue, take it up with Fox Sports.
Well, don't you worry. I'm not very happy with it.
We're gonna put a tweet out.
Strongly worded email.
Oh my gosh. Well, feel free to tweet Fox Sports or any of the traditional social media. You can just
I
write
mean,
a
like a
strongly
Hall
worded
of
letter.
Famers. It should have been all Hall of Famers, and then like future Hall of Famers, like Philip Rivers is not number 2. Like, are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, I'm cool with him being on the list, but not at number 2. Like, especially if Matt Ryan is on that list. But I wouldn't necessarily put Matt Ryan below Philip Rivers, considering Matt Ryan went to a Super Bowl.
Sure.
It's kind of weird.
You could make an argument there for sure.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun. I know it was a little different, but I wanted to throw a little change up in there.
Nice.
Gentlemen, any other topics in the world of sports you'd like to cover before we finish up with a little bit of a blast from the past tonight?
Oh my! Oh, you guys didn't like my sports movie one?
Oh, I did like that.
No, I liked it. We were just trying to keep this an abridged version because
Fair enough.
Didn't have you here. We thought you might want to chime in on that. I mean, we could definitely talk about that if you'd like to.
Let's skip blast from the past and just do the sports movies.
Done.
Works for me.
Sold.
All right,
so
John,
Jason,
why don't you go
Jason,
first?
lead us off, buddy.
Oh man,
Give me one.
favorite sports movie. Probably A League of Their Own, and I judge it based on the fact that I can't turn it off when it's on TV. That would probably be it. I thought it was pretty. It's pretty funny. Tom Hanks, I love. Yeah, it was pretty good. What about you, John?
I got a bunch of them. It's hard to pick 3 good ones, but like one of my all-time favorite sports movies, you guys are gonna laugh. I think is Cool Runnings.
Oh, nice.
That's one of my all-time favorite sports movies. I could watch that over and over again about the Jamaican bobsled team and stuff. And John Candy's so good in that.
Yes,
Nice.
I actually really enjoy that movie. We watched that on a rainy day in phys ed class. So
Nice.
that one's queued up as a need to go to lesson plan for phys ed. So the one that comes to mind right away for me, one of my favorites, just because of the comedy involved in it, is Major League. Major League 2 are some of my favorite all-time baseball. Charlie Sheen, Behringer, or is it Tom Behringer, is awesome. Omar Epps and Wesley Snipes as Willie Mays Hayes, both did a great job. The one-liners in that one that I probably rip off at least once a day are pretty straightforward. Bob Uecker quotes, that kind of stuff. Love that movie.
Jason, what's your number? What's on your list?
Probably Remember the Titans. Again, that's another one when it comes on TV, I can't not watch it. Just the whole story behind it and everything, and how good of a football team it was. To me, that was it's one of my favorites. You want to go again?
Number 2 on my list would be I think Miracle. That they do such a good job in that movie. I was watching a trailer or something of it. They're saying they just got a bunch of high school and college hockey players and just cast them for the leads in the movie because it was easier to teach hockey players how to act than teach actors how to play hockey. And that movie it was such right by the book, the Americans beating the Soviets and things. It's really one of my top favorites.
Nice.
Mike?
So I have one sentimental and one that's kind of more funny for me. So I'll go with the sentimental one to split up my funny ones. So The Rookie is one of my favorite movies baseball wise of all time, and I think it's a little underrated. Is it Quaid is the actor in that?
Yes.
He's excellent, first of all, but it also just gives me that sense of hope because you never know, right? I may go up next to that radar gun and I might throw my fastball, and instead of reading 67, it reads 97, and then I might have a chance to come back and play in the major leagues. So I love that storyline, with the family he's got, and now he comes back in and he's trying to play in baseball again and tries to adjust his lifestyle to that. I think it's a cool movie.
Nice. Well, my last one is probably For the Love of the Game with Kevin Costner. Where he pitches the perfect game, but then he retires. He says he's actually going to retire before that, and it just goes back, like shows his life and his recent, like his relationship. Obviously, you have to include that in all the movies. But yeah, no, it was that's probably a good one. And then my honorable mention is Talladega Nights, and it'll always be Talladega Nights. And it is the greatest movie ever. That's all I got to say. Go ahead, John. Besides Happy Gilmore and all those.
Anarchy.
Yeah. I threw all the Chips War medals off the bridge.
Yeah, I think Field of Dreams. Field of Dreams is probably my third favorite baseball movie or sports movie of all time. But then, then you have some like The Benchwarmers and Waterboy and Little Giants and things like that too. Mighty Ducks, Angels in the Outfield, that all kind of go on that list too.
Well, you guys know I'm an avid golfer, so I'd be remiss not to add a golf movie. Happy Gilmore is one of my favorite all-time sports movies. If it is on television, it does not get turned off. And I think Adam Sandler does a great job. And I know there's a second one. This is like shameless plug, right? There's a second one coming out on one of the streaming services, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. But a ton of one-liners in that. The hockey guy who doesn't know what's going on, finds his magic swing and just hits the crap out of the ball. And you got the villain, played Shooter McGavin. Love that piece of it. It's just an awesome movie. It's a feel good. It's not super technical or anything like that movie wise, but I love it. And then honorable mention, Bull Durham. Breathe through your eyelids, my boys.
Well, two of the other ones that I keep, I just keep seeing clips on Facebook because apparently it can read my mind. But Secretariat and Seabiscuit, those two, because I love horse racing, so those two. And then, I mean, there's so many different ones. Like The Natural, like that's a kick-ass movie too. Like there's so many good ones out there. Like our list, and it's funny because the reason I wanted to do this was because like we did this list, and all of these were totally different from each other. Now, Mike, you had like Major Leagues. I mean, they're on all my lists, but I was trying to like as I was doing
Bears.
this, I'm like,
do you guys like Slapshot?
What's that?
Slapshot. Do you like Slapshot? Yeah.
Oh, what's the other golf movies? The
Caddyshack.
Funny one.
Caddyshack.
Vance. And then there's the other one with oh gosh, the kid that wins the U.S. Open.
Yes.
I know
what you're talking about.
There's just so many of them out there. The Greatest Game.
The greatest game ever played. Yeah, that's it. Greatest game ever played.
And then the boxing movie, the female boxing movie with Clint Eastwood, $1 Million, or was it $1 Million Baby?
$1 Million Baby.
Yeah, $1 Million Baby.
Ali.
So many good
Ali. Yeah.
I mean, like.
There was one point in my life where, and it was like obviously before college and then through college and after, and even through high school, where I'm like, oh, what's the next good sports movie? And every year there'd be like a new sports movie. And I'd be like, yep, got to go. That's the only time I ever went to the movie theater was when there was a sports movie. That's that like when they did Any Given Sunday, or when, was it Friday Night Lights? And then I got sucked into the Friday Night Lights TV show, which was awesome, by the way. So yeah, sports TV, sports movies, awesome.
What about Fever Pitch? Yeah. Is Fever Pitch on any list?
It's okay.
I think that's like a tier below these ones.
Fever Pitch, is that the one with Clint Eastwood?
No,
that's the Boston Red Sox one.
Boston Red Sox one with Jimmy Fallon.
Oh no, that was good. It was a different type of movie. That wasn't really a sports movie. It just so happened that it worked. Oh, the one I can't remember the name with Clint Eastwood is a scout. And Justin Timberlake. That's one of my. That's actually one of my favorite. Trouble with the Curve.
Is it Trouble with the Curve?
Trouble with
Yeah.
the Curve. Hey, how about
That's one of my
Kicking and
favorites.
Screaming? A soccer movie
Oh
with
my
Will
gosh.
Ferrell and Mike
It was
Ditka.
just too much. It was just too much.
Bend it like Beckham and like Mike.
Oh my
All
gosh.
right, John's
How
taking
about
us
Air
down a
Bud,
road.
Golden Receiver, whatever they are.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, here come the Air
That's
Buds.
right. Hey, so let's do this, guys. I'll put a poll or something up on our Facebook page, and let our viewers, listeners comment on what they think their favorite sports movies are of all time. Let's see if we can get some other brainstorm lists up there. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think so.
Well, yeah. Unless you guys have anything else to add, I'm gonna take this one and
Get
wrap
home,
it
Mike.
up. Oh, beautiful! Sounds good. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Dad Bods, Crab Cakes, and Sports. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you see your podcasts, Red Circle, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Give us a like or a follow. It really helps us out. We're trying to spread the good word about Baltimore sports far and wide. Be sure to follow us on social media for all our behind-the-scenes work, bad sports takes, etc. You can find us at dadbods_crabcakes_sports on Instagram and at dadbods crab cakes and sports on our Facebook page. Have a question or topics you'd like us to cover? Please email us at dadbodscrabcakesandsports@gmail.com. You never know, you might just get a shout out on our next episode. Until next time, keep rocking those dad bods, eating those crab cakes, and never miss the game.
Sayonara.
Adios.